It's all about the kids. How many times have you heard that phrase? Probably more times than you can remember, particularly when education is the topic. That's because virtually everyone who works in public education gives lip service to the idea that students must always come first. Any proposed reform to our school system or defense of the status quo usually revolves around an argument about what's best for students. So what's wrong with that, you ask? Well, nothing really. Unless, of course, a lobby group claims to be speaking on behalf of students when they are really representing their own interests. Then we've got a problem. Take a look at teachers' unions, for example. In every province, public school teachers automatically become members of their union once they start working for a school board. It's written right into provincial legislation, and this means teachers' unions have quite a bit of influence on the political process. Now, on one level, there's nothing wrong with teachers' unions advocating for their members. That's what they're supposed to do, since they receive their income from union dues. However, what happens all too often is that teachers' unions try to pass off their proposals as being in the best interest of students. For example, teachers' unions often justify their opposition to standardized testing by claiming to look out for the best interest of students. But how can it be in the best interest of students to oppose gathering important data about student achievement? The simple answer is that it isn't. But it is consistent with a union's desire to protect its members from additional accountability tools. School choice is another policy usually opposed by teachers' unions. Now, most people have little difficulty recognizing that making it easier for parents to choose their kids' schools is a good thing for families. It particularly benefits families who don't have enough money to send their kids to private schools or move to an upscale neighborhood. The union argument that school choice weakens public education and thus hurts students fails to withstand scrutiny. The reality is that teachers' unions benefit enormously from maintaining their educational monopoly. After all, requiring all students to attend designated public schools ensures that funding remains relatively stable, and consequently, the jobs and union dues of teachers remain secure. That's good for teachers' unions, but not so good for students who miss out on going to the school of their choice. Some of the policy proposals put forward by teachers' unions may sound like they are about students, but they really have more to do with their own interest. For example, class size limits is a common demand of teachers' unions. Largely as a result of pressure from their respective teachers' unions, both Ontario and Manitoba recently capped class size at 20 students for K-3 classrooms. On the face of it, this sounds like a good thing for students, but is it? Well, first we need to consider that class size limits are very costly to implement. Additional teachers need to be hired, and more classroom space is needed. Since education budgets are limited, that means that smaller class sizes mean less money is spent on something else, such as textbooks or other resources. Or else taxes go up. In addition, class sizes often lead to split classes, since schools have less ability to be flexible with how they group students. Plus, the research evidence is clear that smaller class sizes has only a modest impact on student achievement. Unless classes are reduced to really small levels, such as 17 students or less, the impact is actually quite limited. So if we really want to improve student achievement, simply lowering class sizes isn't the way to do it. But class size limits do benefit teachers and their unions. Smaller classes reduce the workload of teachers and mean that more teachers will be hired. More teachers mean more union dues and more income for the union. So it makes sense for the teachers' unions to advocate strongly for class size limits. Now, with all that being said, remember, it isn't wrong for teachers' unions to lobby on behalf of their members. We just shouldn't let them get away with claiming that they're really advocating for students. Members of the public and politicians need to carefully scrutinize the proposal of teachers' unions carefully, and not simply accept them at face value. you wear eyeglasses? Many of you probably do. Even if you don't, chances are that someone in your family does. As for me, well, I've been wearing glasses for well over 20 years, so it's something that I've definitely gotten used to. When you think about it, glasses really are a remarkable invention. Ever wondered what street in North America is the widest? Well, if you're ever in New York City, the answer to that question is easy. West 120th Street. What makes this road so wide? Well, it's the dividing line between Teachers College at Columbia University and the rest of the university campus.